How the f did the UK get so balkanised? For over a century, the Tories and Labour is all we've ever known, but as it stands, that's all about to change in 2029. The Tories are dead, Labour are parroting them to the same fate, and newcomers have risen to the scene. But before we get to them, let's first talk about how we even got here. Like most things in the country, it goes back to Thatcher. You see, after World War II, the Labour government looked at the situation like, we've won the war, but we've lost in every other metric. To rebuild the country, we're going to provide free healthcare, build more houses, nationalise key industries to boost employment, and all that jazz. For a change, quality of life was only improving, and things were looking promising. On the other hand, the Tories did not like any of this. They have always represented whoever was the elite within society and therefore have always been reluctant for change. But these policies were popular, and the Tories also understood that this stopped the working class from being agitated and it legitimised capitalism. So they kinda just left the whole labour welfare thing alone, even when they were in power. To be fair, conservatives like Harold Macmillan even expanded building council homes. But at the same time, they had to ensure not to undermine the private sector or expand the government's role in the economy. This centrist model went on to cause some big issues. Without the government investing or pressuring companies to modernise, companies are naturally going to want to avoid risk, pay off their dividends, and keep as much profit as they can. So when the global oil crisis arrived, a Britain that was reliant on imported oil was hit pretty hard. Outdated technology meant low growth. Reliance on importing key resources meant paying higher inflated prices, and who pays the cost for these poor decisions? The workers, who were hit with wage restraints. This is where Thatcher comes in, an outsider with a domineering and combative demeanour, and she's all like, these unions have way too much power. The government, also too powerful, and you guys are spending way too much money. Thatcher was critical of socialists like Churchill, because they didn't balance the budget. To put it simply, Thatcher's view of how the government should function is like being in a control room with a bunch of levers controlling the flow of money. For the most part, the market is in the driving seat, and the levers will be adjusted here and there to keep things stable. In practice, this just meant workers lost their jobs, but large firms increased their profits. The government lost money, but monopolies grew. Renters paid more, but landlords bought their third and fourth homes. To the right, this is all a result of merit, and inequality was a worthy price for upholding that. At this point, you may be wondering what this has to do with the current pollings. Well, it's all connected, because Thatcher never really died. They say she's buried in a hospital somewhere, but to be truthful here, every single Prime Minister since Thatcher has operated within her framework in their own way. As inequality and living standards grew worse, there has always been a new scapegoat, and I don't think there has been anyone quite as successful at playing the blame game than a certain Nigel Farage. A London trader who's the son of a stockbroker, Farage was a beneficiary of Thatcher's policies, and naturally a fan. From the moment he entered politics, he had his crosshairs on the European Union. Farage starts throwing around words like sovereignty and national identity, and most people at the time understood what he was doing. This is a man who has a pretty long list of being a racist, and his skepticism of the EU was just a more legitimate gateway for his anti-immigration stances. Even though he was a fringe politician with little real influence, there was a problem. You see, Nigel Farage is outlandish and a charismatic figure, which means he's good TV, resulting in more appearances than he should have. So with the media class behind him, Farage became a prominent actor on the stage by the time Brexit was the talk of the town. With the leverage he had, Farage was able to pressure the Tories to make Brexit a central part of their platform. However, after Brexit was delivered and did not improve people's lives, he conveniently shifted his stance to be more antagonistic towards the unpopular Tories. Effectively, he got what he was pushing for, but didn't get any of the blame for it. Farage claimed the Tories betrayed Brexit by not using it to be stricter on immigration, which is not true. Brexit just changed the distribution of where immigrants came from, and while net immigration increased, the Tories put forward multiple anti-immigration policies. Where this problem gets even bigger is from the fact that Farage is not the only right flank, with Labour now in favour of stricter immigration, which only legitimises Farage as the anti-establishment truth teller. We need to do something about immigration has become the normie position, and as you would expect, Reform do very well in the 2024 general election, and the polls only predict them to do even better in 2029. In the midst of this, Labour are desperately adopting Reform's positions, only making Farage look like the real deal while Labour look flaky and untrustworthy. Given things don't change much, Farage is very much looking like our next Prime Minister. But there is someone who is able to give him a challenge. With the Overton window skewed very right, this created a vacuum on the left that was seized by Zach Palansky. With a progressive campaign to be the Green Party leader, he stood as the left populist candidate, unabashedly standing for the marginalised scapegoats and left-wing economics. This contrasted heavily with the usual bland live, laugh, love green branding, so to no surprise, Zach won with a landslide and continued to help grow the Greens, becoming the third biggest party by membership. Much like Farage, Zach is charismatic, a skilled communicator, and consistent with his messaging. He has all his naysayers rattled as they throw everything to discredit him. This is a pattern we see all the time when a popular progressive rises to prominence, because nothing gets liberals and conservatives riled up than somebody that is a genuine threat to capital. Realistically speaking, as the Greens continue to grow, they operate in the space where they have leverage over Labour in the same way Farage had over the Tories, and also the possibility to form electoral pacts. Given Labour's proximity to Reform, the lesser of two evils argument falls flat, so it is vital to have a genuine left flank, and who knows what they could achieve in the long run. To address the elephant in the room, we obviously have to talk about the other left-wing party, your party. This fast food media cycle has no tolerance for the several blunders from Corbyn and Zara's infighting, but given that this will be a member-led party, I want to be fair here and detach those stewarding the party from the members who will take over. I don't expect much from them in the coming election, but your party is clearly here for the long game and aims to serve as the Greens' left flank. On the other hand, Lib Dems are expected to do well with affluent rural voters and protest voters targeting the Tories. There is a scenario in which the Lib Dems could potentially gain enough seats to be the opposition while coming 4th or 5th in total votes because of the first past the post voting system. On that note, Labour and Tories may find themselves ironically benefiting from proportional representation, a system where seats better reflect total votes. The two big players have long been cautious of this because the alternative first past the post method enabled them to have more political representation. It's very unlikely, but if Labour get desperate enough and push towards some form of proportional representation, it would only further democratise Parliament. Over in Scotland, SNP are predicted to win a landslide, but Parliament is going to be pretty balkanised, meaning the Scottish Greens could push SNP left, and Senedd will be a toss-up between Plaid and Reform, but both of these deserve a video of their own. The future looks concerning, but I feel hopeful to live in a country where there is some momentum on the left, even though it will be an uphill battle. We are 3 years out from the next general election, but fascism is at our doorstep, and we can't sit by idly. Join a leftist party, join a union, get involved locally, because only collective action can combat the growing far right.